How's it going? Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so you might be like, what? Microsoft? Yes, what's new and beyond for Edge DevTools? So who here supports Microsoft Edge or IE? Who has to? I mean, I was a web developer. I understand. Who does automated testing for Edge right now? 15, 16? Have you tried it yet? Did you know that we have an Edge driver that is free to use and test with on Browser Stack? Oh. Did you know that 500 million users use Windows 10 and the 60% of that time spent in Windows 10 is using Microsoft Edge? So, just food for thought. Before we get to, something to think about. Okay, so anyways, yes. I am Sean Larkin. I'm one of the program managers for the Microsoft Web Platform, specifically Edge DevTools. But you may know me as one of the maintainers, and I kind of fit the role of developer advocate or evangelist for the open source project called webpack. Who here uses webpack? This is a good audience. All right, nice. I did also spend some time part of the core team on the Angular CLI, as well as just kind of a general evangelist for open source sustainability. We're kind of in this new era of how we decide we want to fund projects and double down on the investments of open source that we're spending. So, but today I'm going to talk a little bit, like you might see Webpack sneak in there a bit, but but I want to talk about what I'm doing at Microsoft for Edge DevTools. Who here has, so just context, I have really only been doing web development for about 3.5, 4 years. And so who knows what this screen is and has been ever developed or written code for IE6? And this was the top of the line IE6 dev toolbar that merged and created into Microsoft Edge. And so we've been working and churning on browser tools for 12 years. But as you know, we're not in IE anymore. We completely changed everything about our focus with Internet Explorer to Edge. And so you may see that we've built Edge DevTools from scratch, but not really. Actually, it's funny that we took, originally when we implemented DevTools for Microsoft Edge, is that we basically kind of took the old implementation and tried to shim it in there. And there's not really paper clips and chewing glue, but chewing gum. You can kind of get an idea of what the complexities that were around it. And so we set out to do things different, because everything that we've done in the past 5 years at Microsoft have represented how do we show and empathize with developers and give them the most incredible tooling across any part of Windows and the Windows platform. And so you may have seen this before if you've ever used Microsoft Edge. And we set out feedback. And this is the feedback. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say that we weren't surprised. We understood. But we listen. And so what are we doing right now? You can kind of see an example of this is what the new platform is going to look like for Microsoft Edge and Edge DevTools. We're right now, as we speak, creating API boundaries and refactoring thousands and thousands, maybe even 1 million lines of code, either tossing it away or removing deep access that Edge DevTools used to have in the browser, and creating something that's clean and cut. And as you can see here, we now have this beautiful API or interface that can not only allow you to use Edge DevTools, but who here uses VS Code? How killer of an experience is VS Code? Like, I was totally Sublime Text for the win, like my whole life, and then I used it once. I was like, there's no key bindings, and I installed the Sublime Text extension. I was like, I'm never changing editors again, never again. But that's the point. We're taking and we're creating these decouplings so that now you have this whole suite of tools that interact with the web platform that you can use. But it's not just removing code. It's 50% less memory, 4% less disk space, and even faster at launch. And to me, that 17% is not good enough. And as long as I'm a program manager on Edge DevTools, we're going to really try and set the bar high. But there's still something that that people really wanted to know about. And this to this day, I've worked at Microsoft for 4 months. And in those 4 months, I have not used, I used to be purely on a Mac. And I switched this Surface Book, and I have never turned once, for exception of one thing, is that as a web developer, I miss my DevTools. And so the features that came along with it. So we answered the call and started taking the things that you asked for the most, such as accessibility inspection, the ability to take and identify and have a full tree of what your page would look like if it was to be read by a screen reader or accessibility devices. We added some features that, in my opinion, I think they're expected. Chrome has done an incredible job in setting the bar high, and so we can not only just implement the features that you expect, but we want to take it a step further. Things like service workers and cache inspection. How can we take and build on the things that other browsers have done and then do it really well? Even DOM mutation breakpoints. Who uses those? Does anybody use DOM mutation breakpoints? They're like some of my favorite. The ability to be able to just select a node and watch it. Back in my day, we had 3 years ago, we had 10,000 line global.js files. And you had no idea where code was touching the DOM. And so this is extremely valuable. And then even things like pseudo element inspection, the little details that really add up to a quality experience. Ancestor and event path inspection. How can we go ahead and break down based upon these different events, but then also worry about the ancestors and child nodes of the DOM that we're tracking those events for? Better animations and font supports and styles. There's a whole myriad of different changes. And then some of my favorite, maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm not, but we took the entire console tab and completely rewrote it using Inferno.js, TypeScript, and webpack to bundle and deliver it for the client. So, whatever, Sean, these are things I expect. So, what's the point? The point is that we want to be able to not only take and give you the things that you expect, but we want to take your feedback and build on it. Not only are we trying to listen to you and take some of the top things, like literally the features that you most vote on. Like literally go to uservoice.microsoft.edge.com and look for DevTools. The things that you vote on are the things that we work on. How powerful is that? What better way to be involved in the things that you love, or maybe you don't use Edge, and maybe you're just supporting it, and you want to be able to have a good experience when you have to go back and debug that, those 2 element selectors that you don't know is working. That kind of experience, still you deserve for it to be eloquent and seamless. So like I said, we're listening. All of these things that you see here are things that we've implemented, top issues, or top voted requests. But what are we doing now? So the most voted in requests is people want to be able to debug. Who writes for like Xbox apps, or who has to support Raspberry Pi? Who likes working on the Windows IoT platform? So what's awesome about Edge is that it's part of the operating system code called One Core UAP. And so everywhere that you have the Windows experience, you have Microsoft Edge. And so we want to be able to make it possible so that you can inspect and debug on an Xbox, on a HoloLens, on a mixed reality device, and even on a Raspberry Pi. And so, like I said, the journey begins now. We're working on 2 key things. Not only the features that you're requesting, but rebuilding a better foundation, removing millions of lines of code, and then making sure it's stable and that it works. Because if you had a bajillion features in your DevTools, but none of them worked or crashed, what's the point? It's wasted effort. And then trying to expose a modern API so that tooling can work with Edge and interact with it. Similar to the awesome integrations that exist with Puppeteer and Chromeless. And we just, our DevTools team just left TPAC here in San Francisco, and working on being able to standardize parts of the Chrome and Edge DevTool protocols so that those same tools that you love to use can work for both browsers. And then just listening to you guys, empathizing, going to your companies and understanding your needs. Like that is the strategy for success in being able to provide a legit product and experience. But what are my ideas for DevTools? I mean, I do kind of have a stake now, right? What if DevTools could meet build tools? What does this mean? What if Edge DevTools knew about the build systems that we use? What, 90% of the people here use Webpack, right? And then how can we, empathize on that? Well, this is a problem that I want to solve right here. Who's seen this slide before? Maybe recently? Okay. You might be on Twitter and seen this or a blog post. 50% of sites are interactive in 14 seconds on a mobile device. Do you know how long it takes a user to disengage from your application? 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So somebody's losing millions of dollars here. And other browsers have tried to help you, give you hints and ideas. We know that some of the most costly hits to web performance is the amount of JavaScript that we're shipping. And Chrome did a great job with this coverage tool. Who even knows about this tool, though? Look around. That's 5 hands. Okay. Okay. 2 hands. I think that it boils down to this problem. And I think Edge is also a part of it. This is what browsers think your code looks like. Look at it. This is what browsers think your code looks like. This is what it looks like. And you might use a build tool. You might use Webpack. And you know what? Who here knows what Webpack Dashboard is? Who here knows what Webpack Bundle Analyzer or Source Map Explorer is? There's been a ridiculous rise of these toolings that help you visualize how your application comes together. Webpack Bundle Analyzer, being able to give you a tree map of each dependency and how it relates to your code, separated by different bundles. It's beautiful. And it's super, super informative on being able to tell you, wait, why am I shipping prop types to the browser? Come find me on Twitter and say, I found prop types in my bundle. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It's a huge opportunity to just save bytes. And then there's other just beautiful integrations that people have built. So there's a need to be able to bring that together. Well, guess what? These are powered by just a really tiny feature in Webpack called the stats.json file. And you can do --JSON and output a JSON representation of what your entire bundle and dependency graph looks like. Oh, let's get that video going. But even those visualizers themselves kind of fall short, because even though we can identify issues, we really don't know how they relate to the cost. So browsers, they understand why your code is slow, but they have no context. It doesn't relate back to the code you actually write. Where's the empathy in that? Tools understand your code, but they have no idea how the duplication relates to how expensive it is in the browser. But what if we could bridge the gap? What if we could share this data with each other to build a really interesting experience in your DevTools? What if code coverage could be applied to this and become useful? What if you could say, oh, well, of course, you have prop types here and you don't even use it on your page? What if we could give errors or warnings or information in a tab that says, hey, you loaded we just had to parse 10 seconds of moment.js, but it's not even used in your initial render. You should lazy load it. Take a look at a resource that we have at Microsoft. Why can't we do this? it would be possible maybe if we could share some of this data. Or maybe we could build beautiful visualizations showing you how your code overlaps automatically just by shipping a stats file. So, I mean, the point is that when we empathize with not only the tools that you write, is that we can make it an incredibly valuable asset. Your tools become that much more powerful. And it really creates what is most important about DevTools, and that's the developer experience. And heck, we can help you ship a faster web. So, like I always try to say, is that Edge DevTools is about putting developers first and giving you the things that work with your workflows and your tooling. And so, yeah, thank you.